Hello everybody and welcome to this week's webinar. We're going to talk about an efficient downswing sequence and how to start their downswing. This is brought to you by Medicus Golf and KX Golf, and we're here at Tiffany Green's Golf Club in Kansas City, Missouri. And as you can see, we've got Brenndan strapped up with some driveway markers here. So what we're going to talk about is a critical way to start the downswing. Because what we see every day on the lesson tee is people really don't have a clue how that works, do they?
Right, they don't.
So, we get a lot of questions, and it says, do you start with your lower body, you start with the upper body, you start with your arms? And that answer would be, it depends.
Yes.
It depends on what you are already doing. We're going to use a device today called the Crush It, and you can get this Crush It through golfshopcentral.com. If you have any questions, please go ahead and type into the sidebar. We'll answer those at the end of the webinar. So let's talk about downswing sequence. All right, so we're going to have Brenndan. Let me move this, or you can see it right here. Go ahead and just set up to this the way it is.
Face on like this.
And what we're going to do is when we set this Crush It up, we don't want to push this thing down right now. We just want to put it underneath that foot, your front foot, and right before the ball of the arch, before the arch of your foot starts. So if you go to the top of the swing, Brenndan, what most people would do is they would start to move this way, but then they would go this way. So you can see that he hasn't put any pressure into this Crush It. So let it go to the top. So the first move is you're going to put pressure into your front foot. That loads the pressure moving towards target now. From there, your hips are actually going to start rotating. I'm going to show you a little drill to do that. The hips will start rotating as the club comes down into impact. Now we're going to give you a different view so you can see how these things work. And then from there, the pressure is still moving upward, and that's going to allow the left leg or your front leg to actually lose its flex. Okay? So now we're going to turn a different direction so you can see this a little bit better. So again, the first move we want to do is once we get to the top, we want to step on the Crush It to get the pressure forward. Then the hips, and the technical term is pelvis, but most people don't understand that, so we call it hips. The hips start to rotate. Now the arms come down, and now everything starts straightening in an upward fashion, pushing in the ground upward, and that's going to let the club release and go all the way to the finish position. Now, again, you can do this and just stand in front of the mirror with driveway rods. And now I'm going to add this rope and show you kind of how we would do this if we were out on the lesson tee. We'd use a larger rope, but this is what we have right now. So I'll put this rope around the player's waist. And then I would actually be standing over here a lot farther. So if Brenndan goes up, if I stand right here and pull him, you'll see that he has too much lateral motion now. Right? So what I would do is I'd stand behind him as he goes to the top, and now he makes his first move to the left, and now from here, just go to the top again. Just make the first move to get the pressure. That's it. And now what we're going to do is, because I have the rope tied on the right side of his body, I'm going to start moving it around. And as you can see, this really, let's turn it this way now so they can see this. Right here. A little more. All right, there you go. Okay. So go to the top, start your pressure down, and now the rotation starts happening. As you can see, that really opens his body up. Now let's face this way, Brenndan. So we're going to give them this down the line view. All right, let's go to the top again. Pressure, and now the rotation. Now slowly. So let's go back to impact so you can see what this would look like at impact. Okay, go to the top. Pressure, and now the rotation. So here's impact. You can see that his hips are clearing. They're getting out of the way. The pelvis is getting out of the way. That makes room for the arms to swing by and for the shoulders to continue opening. So in a perfect world, all right, let me just take that off now. Yeah. We're going to tie him to a chair later. Okay, so in a perfect world, Yeah, go ahead and get set again, and do it at the angle so they can kind of see there. In a perfect world, what we would like to see is, as you go to the top, no matter what your shoulder turn is, whether it's 90 degrees, 60 degrees, whatever it is, we would like for the hips to be half of that amount. We'd like for the knees to be half of the hips. So now as you start down, and let me back up. There's a reason for that. If we overturn the hips, go ahead, start again. If we turn the hips as much as the shoulders, there's no coil, there's no restriction in here. The hips now have twice as far to go before the upper body can come down. So by eliminating these and returning them to half, everything is half. Now the pelvis, the hips only have half as far to go. So the chest can unwind and the whole body can straighten in an upward fashion by pushing against the ground. That'll give you a downswing sequence. So without the rods, it kind of looks like this. You're at the top, you are into the left foot, the pelvis starts rotating. I'll do it from this angle as well. You are sitting here where I'm sitting right here, so I'm at the top. I'm moving into my left foot. The pelvis starts rotating. Now the chest starts rotating, and then the arms finally go. And I had a question earlier today. I was actually on a call with a guy, a player from Florida. And they said, in a kinematic sequence, which is what we're talking about, it starts from the ground up. What makes the hands slow down? Okay. So my answer to that, what I told him is, it's totally dependent on what your chest is at impact.
Yes.
If your chest is too closed this way, your arms will slow down quicker and the club will start accelerating at a quicker point.
Yes.
If your chest is square, your arms will still slow down, they just slow down at a later point. If the chest is open, the arms will slow down, but at a later point.
Yeah.
So, and the other key for that slowing down is you have to remember that you have your right wrist, and I'll put it like this, you have your right wrist actually bent back at the top of your swing. It's bent, let me get a good angle. So it kind of looks like this. This would be not bent, bent. So as I'm coming down and I get right about to where my hands are over my right thigh, I have the right wrist bent. Well, as soon as I start letting this wrist release that bend, that slows the hands down,
Yeah.
but it speeds the club head up. So you don't want to come into impact feel like you're holding this thing the whole way, because it'll just slow down.
Right, and that's where a big misconception is with a lot of people. They think that they want to try to hold that angle as long as possible. We don't want you holding it. I mean, you look at video of Ben Hogan, he wasn't holding anything.
Right.
He was letting it go.
Right. And Sergio.
And Sergio, yeah.
Now, having said that, for those of you that come into impact like this, all right, we might have to get you to do a drill to go like this. See, I'm allowing this to come this way, but I'm also letting the club come down and then get back in line. Let's see what it'd be. This would be a better angle. I'm letting the club get in line out here versus this way versus that way.
Yeah.
Right? So, again, we're not an advocate of doing this. Again, that might be a drill
Yes.
for somebody that's coming into impact this way. So, in reality, all these angles are releasing. You've got to, again, you start from the ground up, so the first move is move the pressure to the target side, then start rotating the pelvis, then start rotating the chest, now start losing the bend in the right wrist to impact. So it's coming on what we call an in-line condition of impact, not an out-of-line condition of impact. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think that's great visuals for people to get, just trying to get things in line.
Right.
Sure.
And we spend a lot of time, especially in this winter, we spend a lot of time on the sequence and what we call the mobility stability pieces, because you can be really mobile but not be stable.
Yes.
Or you can be stable but not mobile.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of blend those pieces together. And going back to where we were talking about everything is kind of a half ratio. And again, that's a guideline. If you only turn your shoulders 60 degrees, you might only want 30 degrees of hip turn, right? 15 degrees if your knee's moving.
Exactly.
So, but again, it's a case-by-case basis, but that gives you a starting point and then adjust from there.
Right.
So, all right, I'm going to take a look at these questions and see what we have here. All right, so we have a question from Lisa. What is your method about position of both wrists? Do you have a comment on the 3D hand path and the flexion of the left wrist? Okay, so there is a 3D hand path, and I know it's a video that you saw on YouTube, and I thought Joe did a pretty good job at doing that as well. But here's the deal. While the technical terms might be ulnar, radial deviation, flexion, extension, at the end of the day, you can use whatever term you want. All right, so this would be flat, arched, bent, flat, bent, arched. This would be uncocking and cocking. So you can use whatever term you want. They're all analogous. It's just that some of these terms are the biomechanical terms that a lot of golfers really don't understand. So here's the deal. You're swinging on a plane. You're swinging this club on an angle. So if you're at the top of the stroke and you're coming down, this left arm is only going to go so far, I'll move this out of the way, before it starts moving on an upward path. Now, if I kept my shoulders absolutely level, the hand is still moving down. But I also don't have any pivot here.
Right.
But because my body is turning and my shoulders are moving not only up but behind, that means the hand path, if you'll watch the path of my hands, is going up and in.
Yeah.
So the low point of the club head is going to be the position that it reaches an inline condition. Okay, that could be at your left shoulder. It could be if you're doing this, your low point is clear back here.
Yeah. Okay. Show them what you're talking about now. This would be the inline.
Yeah. Now that's inline. And if I had it arched, then my inline condition is past my left shoulder. Okay. So, and I'd have to aim a little bit left to counteract that, because it's going to have a tendency to push the shot, right? So, again, you're just moving your wrists in different locations. So it's going from here to here to here. This one's going from, let's say it's turned, okay? It's moving back toward vertical. Post-impact, it's going this way. So years ago, there was a book written called The Golfing Machine. And Homer Kelly talked about what he called the law of the flail. And the law of the flail simply meant that this is out of line, and once these get in line, it creates its most speed. So, for what he wrote, the golfer's flail was that this left hand never ever did this.
Right.
It stayed here and went all the way up and maintained its flatness like this. Well, a true flail, which is two pieces tied together in the middle somewhere, once it reaches its inline condition, past that point in a true flail, that section that is the section between your lead arm and your club is going to start bending. So it would look more this way. Let me see, I'll give you an angle here. This is bent, and that's the other one, right? So that's all we're trying to do.
Yeah.
If you let it flail like a true flail and not a golfer's flail, right, then the club will speed up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's a great analogy and good picture for people to look at. And again, we're just, we see so many times where people get this look instead of just more worrying about this.
Right.
And then once you get here to post-impact, just
let it go.
Just let it go.
And it's going that way coming into impact.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have, I don't know, let's say 20 degrees of bend in your right wrist, if you're a right-handed player, coming down, but by the time you get to your right thigh, the hands are over the right thigh, this is rapidly starting to move towards what we would call a flat position.
Yes.
You just don't want it flat prior to impact.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
Yeah. So that's kind of how the golfers feel. Look, I see we have another question. Let me go up here and look at this real quick. Doesn't the right wrist have to be bent to have the left wrist flat at impact? Yes, we just talked about that. the right wrist is bent, okay, which makes the left wrist flat. If you take and you flatten your right wrist, this will be flattening it going this way, then that will bend that wrist. So, like we said, it is bent, but it's rapidly moving what we call inline or flat, and at impact, it's not quite flat. It's not flat at impact. It's moving.
It's moving
flat.
to reach its flatness.
Yeah, and then post-impact is when it is flattening. And again, you can see rounding off, you know, Trevino, Tom Lehman, that's called, we call it arching, bending, right?
Yep.
So again, remember, you want an inline condition impact. Inline simply means left arm and club shaft are in one line. So if I have this left wrist bent, you can see it's out of line.
Two lines.
Okay. If I have this left wrist arched, I have two lines.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all that means. So don't get confused with all this flexion, extension, ulnar and radial deviation stuff. It's either flat, bent, or arched. It's either level, cocked, or uncocked.
Yeah.
And it's either vertical, turn, or roll.
Yeah.
So that's really pronation, supination.
Yeah.
Right?
You can call it whatever you want.
Call it whatever you want, but they're all the same thing. Okay. So anyway, it looks like we have one more question here. Good, we got a few questions today. That's great. Let me see if I can scroll down here to see that. Let's see here. I think that's it. I think that is our questions. Okay. So to recap, work on your downswing sequence. It's a feeling of pressure into the lead foot, rotation of the hips, pelvis, rotation of the chest, and finally the arms.
Yeah.
Right?
While making sure you keep that pressure in that left foot.
Right. You got to keep the pressure in the left foot. Yeah. All right. So until next week, I want to thank Stick Boy here for helping us out.
Anything to get the message across.
There you go. And anything you guys would like to see on these webinars, just send us an email. We'll do a webinar on it.
Yeah, we really like doing these webinars, and you know, anything that we do these for you guys. So anything that you want to see or interested in hearing about, let us know. And you know, we'd love to put some stuff together, try to help everybody we can.
Right. So Red Friday, Chiefs and Seahawks this weekend. Go Chiefs! The other side of the news is we are expected to have a little bit of this white stuff hit us tomorrow.
Yeah.
The good thing is it's 70 degrees in our indoor training bays. Perfect. Okay. So we'll see you all next week. Thanks.